Namaskar friends, welcome to our channel Think Tank India. In today's, we have a special show with Ma'am Jacqueline Saper. Nowadays she is very famous and this is her first interview to any Indian channel. And this is we are very obliged and this is our pleasure that she is in our channel today. She is famous for her book. We can see her book just behind her. The book is famous. The name of this book is From Mini Skirt to Hijab. So, welcome to our discussion, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me,
Thank you.
ma'am, tell me your experience. Why you wrote this book?
Well, I was born in Iran. I grew up in Tehran, the capital city. And when I was 17, 18 years old, I witnessed the Iranian Revolution. When I was growing up, Iran had a monarchy. There was a king and queen. It was a secular country, very modern. And then the summer of 1978, there was civil disobedience, unrest, and I went through about 8, 9 months of protests, strikes. The country was at a standstill, and the revolution happened in January 16 of 1979. The Shah, the king of Iran, left and he ended 2,500 years of monarchy in Persia, Iran. And then Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile. He had been in exile for 15 years. He came back to Iran on February 1st, 1979, and there was a referendum, but according to the referendum, 99% of the people voted for an Islamic republic, and then the country became a theocracy, a clergy rule country. And I lived in Iran for 8 more years in the Islamic Republic under Sharia laws. And until I left for the United States in 1987. So my book is literally what happened. I went from wearing miniskirts to hijab.
So, ma'am, you went through two phases in Iran. One is through the secular phases, and one is through the totally Islamic phase. So,
Correct.
what was the difference between those two phases?
The difference, that your question is the difference between them?
Difference between two phases, the
Very,
Islamic phases and the secular phases.
very big differences because under the Shah, the king, he had given women a lot of rights. In 1963, Iranian women got the right to vote, and that is 8 years before the women in Switzerland got the same rights. So he gave a lot of women family law, and women got a lot of rights. Women could become judges. There was a minister of education who was a physician, and she was a woman. My father always said I was so lucky to be born during that era. Remember, the Pahlavi dynasty, the Shah of Iran and his father, rapidly modernized the country. Before them, in the Qajar dynasty, Iran was a backward place. Women were in the harems and under hijab. But the Pahlavi era, Iran rapidly modernized, and I wore fashionable clothing. I was just like any other girl anywhere else. There were a lot of foreigners in Iran. There was peace, and Iran had good relations with most countries, all countries in the world. When the Islamic Republic happened, suddenly half the population, the women, I can say, became second-class citizens. They were forced to dress in strict hijab. Now, the last decades or so, it became more relaxed. Women could show part of their hair. But since President Ibrahim Raisi, the current president, came to power a year ago, he tightened the laws of hijab. But hijab is really a piece of cloth. It's the laws that happen. For example, in Iran, it's legal. I'm not saying all men do that, no, but a man can, polygamy is legal. A man can have more than one wife, but women obviously cannot. A man has the right for divorce. A man usually almost gets child custody. A woman, if she wants to travel and get a passport, has to get her husband's permission, a written permission. There are many laws. A man gets twice inheritance than his sister. It just goes on and on. There was a woman soccer player. Her name was Nilufar Ardalan. She was a goaler, and there was a soccer national competition in Malaysia, and she couldn't attend, and the team's winning depended on her. But she had had an argument with her husband, and he would not give her permission to leave the country. So as you can see, there's a lot of discrimination. I call it gender apartheid. Um, just recently, President Raisi was in New York. He spoke before the General Assembly at the United Nations. And there is a famous reporter, Christiane Amanpour, she's for CNN. She wanted to interview him, and he demanded that in New York she had to wear hijab to interview him. And she doesn't. She's a woman who doesn't wear it, and she's not in Iran, so she refused, and the interview never took place. So you can see how it just goes on and expands to many areas.
One question, ma'am. Hijab is the integral part of Islam. What is your opinion?
Hijab, there are so many Islamic countries, and everybody has a different interpretation of the hijab. But I can say it is not a cultural dress code in Iran, because no culture is enforced by threat, by jailing people, by a police wing called morality police. Hijab should be an expression of someone's faith and religion, and it should be a choice and respected as a choice, but not a force. And I think in democratic nations, women have choices. I mean, Indian women in the West wear saris. It's beautiful. A lot of Jewish Orthodox women they cover their hair with a wig. This is all an expression of faith. So hijab, if it's in that content, it's good. The Queen of Jordan, Queen Rania, she decides not to wear hijab, although many Jordanians do. So I think it should be a choice. But in Iran and Afghanistan are the only two countries in the world that hijab law is mandatory and forced. Even Saudi Arabia, King Mohammed bin Salman lifted that rule. So you can see how it goes.
Ma'am, we can see that what happened with Masa Amini.
Yes.
She was only 22, and what was happened with us, it is really painful. Now Iran is revolting. Iranian women are revolting. So what is your opinion about that?
It is very interesting because
Not only in Iran, whole world, maximum women are revolting against this moral policing of Iranian government.
that's correct. Mahsa Amini's death was very tragic and senseless. She was visiting Tehran with her brother from a city called Saqqez. It's in the Kurdish province of Iran, and she was with her brother. There is a morality police in Iran. They are men and mostly women who are very harsh towards other women, and they stop citizens in the streets, reprimanding, shouting at them, and lecturing them on to wear correct hijab, to cover everything and show the roundness of their face. So Mahsa Amini possibly did her part of her hair was showing, and they arrested her. and they put her in the van and took her to a re-education center to lecture her on how to dress better. It seems through witnesses that while she was in the van, her head hit the side of the van or something. She had head injury, or somebody hit her, and the X-rays from her skull shows that she had a head injury, and she died a few days later just because she wasn't a threat to the government. She wasn't political. So this news triggered the sentiments of Iranians. It was ignited many years of repression and unfavorable treatment, especially of women. But what is different in these protests is that the men are supporting the women. And there is a slogan called Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, woman, life, freedom. This time the protests seem different because, as you in India now know about it, people around the world are taking notice. So I hope things will get better there, but it's a long process.
In one side, we can see the Iranian women revolting against the hijab. But in India, we saw in southern state of Karnataka, in this place called Udupi, there some students left school because of they were not able, they were not ready to give exams only also without hijab. In India, we have a certain form of uniform because India once upon a time, now India is a rich country definitely, but once
Yes.
upon a time India was a very poor country. From that viewpoint, in India we maintain a rule, we made a rule of uniform. Every school have the same uniform because we can distinguish any students who is rich, who is poor. So in India, they were not ready to wear uniform. So what is your opinion? I mean, they left studies also because uniform was not allowed, because hijab was not allowed them to wear in schools only. You can
Well,
wear hijab in anywhere. There is no ban on hijab in India. But they want that they will not wear uniform in school. They wear hijab and burqa in school. What is your opinion about that?
Well, it's not only in India. I mean, in Brazil they had the same issue. In France they have the same issue. In England they stopped women wearing niqab to cover their face. Again, India is a democracy. That's the difference. Iran is not. So while Iranian women are fighting, while women, some Muslim women in India are fighting to wear hijab, the women in Iran are fighting not to wear hijab. So it's a different situation, as I explained before. In democracies, it should be uh, it should be an expression. But if the law says that school children have to wear uniforms, I think they should abide with the law. Uh, it's a complicated matter.
Nowadays, Indian government bans a Islamic terror organization, Islamic radical Islamic organization PFI, Popular Front of India, who was indulging the women to wear hijab. So, what is your opinion? What Indian government is doing on the radical forces is right or wrong?
Well, I'm not Indian, so and I've never lived in India. But I think if you are a citizen of a country, you should, and if it's a democratic country, you should abide by the laws. And as I said, if the law says you have to wear a uniform for school, maybe they can wear their hijab outside school. I don't know. But you should respect the law of the country. Now, on the contrary, in Iran, a small group of Islamic radicals are ruling over a larger population. So that's a different scenario. But India is a very large country, it's a democracy, and its values should be respected.
So now you tell about your book briefly. Our
My
audience
book,
want to know about your book.
I come from a generation, as I explained in the beginning, I grew up, you see, Iran has 83, 84 million population, but over two-thirds of them are under 35 years old. It's a very young population. When the revolution happened, there were 35 million. Now it's 80, 83, 4 million. So the majority of people have never seen how Iran was before the revolution. But there's such a young population because of internet and social media. They are aware of what's happening outside of Iran and they yearn and want more democracy and freedom. So I grew up before the revolution, as I said, during and after. But my book is not only about hijab. My book is a history book. It is published by a university press, and it's being taught at some universities in the United States. It is a historical fact of what happened to a secular modern country and it talks about the Iran-Iraq war. There was an 8-year war. It talks about Iran-U.S. relations. I don't know if you remember, in 1980 there was a hostage crisis in Iran. They went to the American embassy and they arrested the American diplomats. And there was a movie called Argo about it. So the book mostly talks about human rights, women's rights, minority rights, democracy, and it encompasses a lot of values. And
So
yes,
yes.
now go on.
So if we all Indians want to read this book, from where they can get this book?
Actually,
Your
my
book is available on Amazon.
yes, my book is available on Amazon, but I don't know how. I get a lot of requests for from India, and I have sent. They want my photo. I send them a photo, signed photo of the book cover. It seems my book has been. There's been 4 newspapers that have written about it, and I'm very honored that people in India are interested in the book, and because we both have, your English speaking country more or less, so it's an easy read. I don't know how the book is available in India, but I know it's on Amazon. If you can get it from Amazon, or I will look into it because I would love it for Indians to read the book. I will be honored.
In today's India, we need this book. But do you have any plan to translate in book in various Indian languages, or so that maximum people can read it? Because
That,
in
yeah, that
India, a pocket of people can read or write English, but English
correct.
is not common language for the maximum people.
I would love to. If you know some translators in India who could probably translate into different
Yes, I will send you the name of some translator who
that
is
would be,
very good.
and it could be
I can
available.
send you in this show. I am telling about one girl. She is my assistant also. She also do the translation of some of my researches also.
Thank you
Her
so
name
much.
is Dr. Orpita Mitra. She is also PhD like me. I'll send her contact to you. You can
Thank you very
do
much.
the translation with.
Thank you. And
She will translate
anybody,
it in Bengali and Hindi.
wonderful. And anyone who wants to contact me, you can contact me. I'm on social media. I have a Facebook account, Instagram, the LinkedIn, and I have a website. It's my name, JacquelineSaper.com. And you can contact me through there, and I will be honored to. Maybe one day I'll travel to India. We'll meet in person.
I am inviting you to our country. Please come to our country. And again, we will contact you in another show also. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming on our show. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much. Namaskar.
much. Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.